This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 417, recorded on September 26th, 2019. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios. And here, Mike, fall is finally, we've been talking about this for a while. Fall is finally here. Jay, we're sending some cooler weather your way, by the way.
No,
fall
please
has
don't.
arrived in
Please
Nebraska. Fall's arrived in Nebraska, right, Mike?
Yes, it has. And just in time for Husker Game Day. Those Husker Saturdays are perfect for sitting outside and watching the game, sitting around. And you can even start up a fire at night. Last week, Hannah and I fired up a fireplace outside for the first time and sat around the campfire. It's perfect.
Yeah, fall in Nebraska is pretty great.
It's not much better.
It's pretty great. Leaves come down. I mean, it's one of those seasons that makes it worth living here if you put up with a summer or a winter
or spring, right?
No, spring is nice. But of course, we post a show with world-class show notes each week at theaverageguy.tv. In this case, HGG 417, and they will be there. We'll have a lot of links that you might want to follow. Don't forget, you can follow us on our mobile app if you want to download that. Absolutely free Android, iPhone. Works great. I just reinstalled it the other day, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is pretty cool. Head out to homegadgetgeeks.com, and you can just download it right from there. Best way to listen on the road and stream it live from it. We want to thank our Patreon subscribers for that as well. Join us in the Facebook group or on Discord, theaverageguy.tv/Facebook or theaverageguy.tv/Discord to get that as well. Tonight, Jay Mattison is joining us. He is kind of the brains and the brawn behind Tech Everything, which is both his site, his YouTube channel, and his Twitter. Jay, welcome to Home Gadget Geeks.
Thank you guys for having me. It was great. It's great.
Good to have you. I've been following you on YouTube for a while, and I've been watching your setups. You're a perfect match for this audience. They love this stuff. And so if you haven't already, you might want to head over to his YouTube channel, just Tech, TEK Everything. Super easy, and subscribe to that over there. Jay, how often do you think you post your YouTube video now, or your YouTube channel?
That's a great question. I'd love to say every week, but honestly, it's been a little sporadic lately. I try to post at least 2 videos a month. Typically, that's usually what it is. During the winter, I'm definitely going to ramp up, so it should be around every week. I really want to hit that every week mark at least.
Yeah. Do you find if you're posting more, is it getting more engagement that way? Does it drop off
Absolutely.
a little bit? Okay.
Yeah. So if you don't post, like I just posted a video on Sunday, this last Sunday, and I hadn't posted one, I think, in over a month at that point. If YouTube, the algorithm, if you don't post regularly, they definitely ding you, and they don't post your video as much. Your subs don't see it, and also it doesn't go up in the recommended section as much. So you definitely feel it, but for my lifestyle and where my channel is, it's just I can't really post consistently all the time. So you just got to kind of roll with it.
Wait a minute, you're not like a full-time YouTuber, and that's all you do?
Not a full-time YouTuber making millions off every video? No, it's
you got 50,000 subscribers. Isn't that enough?
Yeah, that's I'm a billionaire. Yeah. No, it's not, I'm not a full-time YouTuber at all. I think most people, I will say that most people, when they switch to YouTube, you can tell just based on how frequently they start posting, the type of content that they make, because it becomes a business all of a sudden, and that's fine. I get it. That's totally normal. But I really want to keep this as light and fun and easy as possible for me and fit YouTube into my life. Obviously, I work full time, so that's really where I am with that, and how I want to keep it, at least for the short term.
Yeah. No, it's good to know. I mean, it's good to have that, like, kind of what you want to do, and your limitations, and those. Your website, Everything Tech, all one, or I'm sorry, Tech Everything, all one word. You got a lot of reviews out there. Which was first? Did you do your website first and then move to YouTube, or was it YouTube, or did it come together?
Yeah. So funny story, actually. For this, we'll take a trip down memory lane. Yeah. So when I was 23, 22-ish, wee lad, I started a different site called Tech Raider, which I thought was very cool at the time. And it was basically the same concept, except it was just a more general tech site. I coded the website by myself by hand. It was horrible. It's a nightmare. I had a YouTube channel that's still up. It's all bad. It's brutal. But that was my first site. So I started a website first. started doing articles, reviews, iPhone reviews, anything I could get my hands on. That failed. Obviously, it was bad. I didn't know what I was doing, so I stopped that. And then I started this up again when I was 29, I guess. So that was like 3 or 4 years ago. And then I started with the YouTube channel first. So that was a goal. I decided that video was the way that kind of everything was moving. You know, printed press and articles on websites, that's fine. But I wanted that to kind of support the video. So you watch the video, you get a general idea, you like the thing. You can click to the article, see more pictures, more images, links, all that fun stuff. So definitely the YouTube channel came first, and I kind of launched the website right along with it. And they just kind of work hand to hand. They feed each other, and it's worked so well so far.
Do you find with your website, or do you get as much feedback on your website as you do on the YouTube channel, or does most of it come in through YouTube?
Yeah, I'd say probably 85% comes through YouTube. I mean, YouTube is more of a social platform. People searching on the site, a lot of the people that come to the site came from YouTube in the first place. So
right. Yeah, it feeds the other way around.
Exactly.
Right? It kind of feeds the site. I mean, in the early days when we were blogging more than we were we were podcasting and blogging, right? And then the site was everything. And so people would go to the site and leave comments, and right, it was pretty easy to do that. You're for your job. Well, tell us. I won't say it, but you tell us, what do you do for a living? What kind of stuff do you do? You're not doing this full time. You got to make some money somehow for that sweet rig that you got behind you.
I'm actually, I am a circus clown, so I work on the weekend. I got my clown suit back there. Yeah. No, I work in tech, so obviously that's a natural extension. I work in SEO, so I'm a technical SEO. If anyone doesn't know what that means, search engine optimization. So basically, I do that for e-commerce websites. So basically, we make them work better and make more money. Long story short, and do a little front end development. That's kind of what my background was. So that's the where the money comes from, I guess.
Yeah, that's what pays the bills, right? Jay, how'd you get interested in tech? What was the spark that kind of got you in this space? What age? What really turned it where you really wanted to do tech stuff?
I thought about this a lot because people ask this question, because it's like if you meet me in public, you wouldn't be like, oh, that guy runs a tech review site. You know, it's like kind of a little bit random. But I think the true genesis was playing with Legos when I was a kid, building with my hands. I always loved building and tinkering. I was the kind of kid who would take things apart, my Nintendo, my Game Gear, remote controls, anything. So I think it's always kind of been there. And I grew up with my dad. He always had stereos and speakers, and he was making stuff and doing cool stuff. So I think it was kind of put in me from a young age. Even going through high school, I played sports, but I came home and I wanted to tinker and game and do all that stuff. So it's been pretty consistent, honestly, throughout my whole life. I think I fell into the PC side of it a little later in life, because obviously that can be an expensive hobby. You can play video games and Game Boys all day long. But I started off there, did gaming. Then I fell into home theater. That was kind of my first love and first foray into tech. Then I slid now, obviously, into the PC space, and now into the small form factor PC space. So it's really all interesting to me, honestly. I love pretty much all things tech. It could be anything from TVs. I really love home theater as well. But that's kind of the genesis, I guess I'd say.
Why small form factor PC? Like what has gotten you into that niche? Because that's super nichey, right? When we think about the PC space, but what is it about that? And I know you've done some reviews, you talk about that on your channel quite a bit, but what interests you about that? And is that the most interesting thing in tech right now for you?
That's a good question. I would say what interested me, at least initially, one, I just thought they looked cool, to be perfectly honest. I just thought it was really cool having an ultra compact system that you could slide on your desk. I mean, you can see in my background, I guess right there, that's a full PC case right there. It sits right on top of the tabletop. And I also thought that some of the larger systems, the traditional ATX cases, that sort of thing, they were just getting stale. I mean, it was just a black box with a glass panel. They all kind of look the same. Throw some LEDs in there and some fans. And I really thought that was a little bit boring. There were a million channels doing that also. And if I was going to make a YouTube channel on a site, I wanted it to be for something unique that people could actually learn and get something from. So there's a small form factor community that has a small community. So it kind of needed some exposure, I thought, and there was really no one doing it. So I figured that would be a good way for me to go out and get it some exposure and have some fun doing it.
I'll take this opportunity to thank Ryan Kirshner, who came on 2 weeks ago. He did some cases big and small. We covered that whole gamut. And yeah, it's interesting in the tech space. Although I think on the higher ends of the bigger cases, there's some interesting, like you can really spend some money on some of those cases, right? And kind of deck them out and get everything. And they've got some nice design kind of, in them as well. In the small, so if I'm today, maybe I haven't followed the small PC market. What kind of things, what are people talking about there? What's the, in these niches, there's always something they're trying to get them faster or cooler or right. Everybody's a race for something. What is that in the mini or the micro PC market?
So I guess typically what people are always talking about is power supplies and cooling. So there's always a struggle to find a smaller and smaller power supply and then a cooler that is compact but can also handle these larger parts. So, like a 8700K powerful 6-core chip, not super crazy hard to cool, can fit in most small form factor systems. The newer 9900Ks, not so much. So it's always a race against heat, thermal dissipation, and trying to find a cooler that can handle cooling those CPUs in these kind of cases. And then also, typically, it's what graphics card you should pick. So you have a very limited supply if you're going with an ultra compact system, and there are always these single fan, small form factor cards. So it's picking the right card. What games do you play? What are you willing to be without? Because there's typically compromises associated with these kind of systems, and that's really typically it. There's a lot of really cool power supplies that are coming out. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with HDPlex at all. Have you heard that name before? So there's a site called hdplex.com, really simple. I reviewed a few of their things. I think the HDPlex 300, but they make DC-DC power supplies. It's basically a board that goes inside your case, and then there's an external power brick. So you can power some really monstrous small form factor cases and basically have all of the heat generating components sitting outside. So there's been a lot of movement lately in that kind of department where you're seeing some really cool power supplies and really unique builds in compact cases. And that's typically what, if you go on the forums, what people are talking about. And also scratch builds, custom cases. There's always a new custom case manufacturer. You can see behind me, I have a bunch of them just on the wall. I've got a million more in the closet and some more actually in the mail on the way. So there's always a new case design, tweaking this and that, adding ventilation, taking it away, adding a fan spot. There's an endless supply of tweaking and tweakers out there really driving this thing.
So if you're taking all that stuff external, right, you're taking all the heating components outside, why not just put it in a bigger case and put it all together? Like what is the benefit there? What's that niche market? What are they looking to accomplish by still having a small form factor, but take all that stuff external?
I guess the number one thing I hear is portability. So you can have a compact system, throw it in a bag, LAN party, friend's house, whatever it may be. Most of these systems are for gaming. So a lot of them are hardcore gamers that want more power than a laptop can provide. Or they have two places. They live one place, they have an office over here, something like that. Also flexibility. You can store or put that case in a much smaller space, and you can either say tape the power supply or the actual brick underneath your desk, move it around. You can do all sorts of crazy things when they're separate. So it is a little bit, it's kind of like having a car and a trailer versus having a truck, something similar like that, So there are some advantages. Now, when you start getting into the external PSUs, does it always make sense? No, not necessarily. But once again, sometimes it just looks cool. You just have a case that you like.
Well, I'm thinking even like, a home theater setup, right? Where if you only need, like I think of my setup right now, I wouldn't be able to fit a full case, but I could, like you said, I could tape that power supply to the back if I needed to. But as far as the outward facing, it would look really sleek to have, if I needed it, right, a small form factor. Or for gaming, same sort of thing. So, interesting. So getting that out of there allows you to kind of hide that fact, but also still have that sleek, good looking, portable experience.
And there are also internal bricks. So you take that external brick, shrink it, put a metal shroud around it, and put it internal. And then you can you're separating, think of like an SFX power supply, which are the smallest power supplies that we have in mass systems, I guess you'd say mass market systems. It's basically cutting that in half, and moving them around in different parts of a case. So it just gives you a little more flexibility. You can do things that you couldn't normally do with a full-size power supply.
Is there kind of a race in that market to get for, especially for gamers, because they're kind of deriving this space, right? They want to have these small form factors, but get the most power. Do you feel like there's still room? Are they on a regular basis? Are they getting more and more powerful, or do you feel like
yes,
okay,
for sure?
Yeah.
We've got DC power supplies that do 800 watts now. So I mean,
Wow.
that's ridiculous. That's more power than you're really going to ever fit inside of a compact case. There's a guy on Small Form Factor Forum. I'm probably going to plug them a lot because that's a great resource if anyone cares about small form factor computing. There's a guy. There a lot of this stuff is driven from Asian creators in terms of actual power supplies, it seems. So it's called G Unique. I did one video on one of his units that was a 400 watt power supply, but he has some incredible just board power supply. So you just have a simple plug that goes into your computer and everything else is done externally in his custom modded bricks. And you can get some crazy power figures. Is it safe all the time? Sure. Sure. It's safe, but there are risks associated with some of those things. It's not Corsair, you know what I mean? There's not the extensive testing that's done with some of the major manufacturers. But hopefully that changes in the future. If they see these things moving in numbers, hey, we sold 20,000 units of X case and X power supply, it might pique their interest. So that's kind of like my hope in the future, that big manufacturers do take up this charge and kind of develop products that fit into small form factor cases, but do have that support of a major manufacturer.
That's like I'm into ham radio, and they took, so every ham radio needs a power supply, and so it's usually external. And this company started taking these $100 to $200 power supplies, and they took everything off of it, and they just gave you the guts essentially. And so people were just setting the guts, and it was like $13 on Amazon. You could like have your switching power supply, you'd be good. And is it safe? No, don't touch anything. But was it $13? Sure.
Yes.
I hope that other people start to see though, like maybe you don't need all the fancy, just cover it up essentially,
right,
and you'll be good. Like the guts worked fine. You took the guts out, you charged me a third of the price, and it worked just fine. But it just don't touch it, right? Like hopefully you don't have kids in there because
don't even look at it.
Don't even look at it. Exactly. But does it work? Yes, it does. It works very well.
Jay, what inspired me to invite you on the show is I watched you move, and you kind of I know that's weird, but you moved. You were talking about it on your channel, and you were saying, new place, you're taking some stuff over, that the rack that you set up behind you. If you want a more detailed walkthrough of that, Jay has kind of a walkthrough of the rack that's back there. You can watch go to his channel and watch that. What was the most challenging thing? And you probably have more gadgets than most, right? When we think about, although I don't know that this channel, you don't have to be a podcaster to have a lot of gear. I think the guys and gals that listen to me here have tons. I have 9 PCs in my house. So nice. It's like we're not
coming over.
We don't run short on that equipment, and that's really common. But when you thought about moving, what was the biggest challenge? Just moving all that stuff. And you seem like you're a little bit of a minimalist too. Like you really like clean lines and hiding things and kind of doing.
Yeah.
What were your challenges when you were moving? Was that hard?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because that's another thing. That's another reason why I do like the small form factor systems. They're very simple and just understated. You just put on the desk. It's almost like a piece of furniture. And I think at my core, I definitely am a minimalist. This shelf behind me is probably the messiest thing I would allow in terms of just the way it looks. But yeah, I think the major thing I was looking for was a place that had also, obviously, I wanted to be able to live comfortably and have a nice apartment, but I also wanted a place where I could reasonably create and have a good space that was functional for me and for videos. So before I didn't necessarily have a dedicated studio. Now I kind of do. And as you can see, if you saw that video, which you did, or if people want to check it out, I've got this kind of custom shelving behind me there, custom IKEA,
It works.
Yeah, it works. But the room is really tailored and built around presenting the products that I have in a way that's helpful for people that are watching videos, and also letting me create in a way that I want to create. But also it's livable. I can watch the game on the couch over there. I can have friends over. I can sit at my desk. It's relaxing. I can look out of the window. It's really a functional space that also works for business, which I guess you could call this as well.
Is your TV to the? I guess it would be.
So my TV is over
direction.
here.
Yeah,
I would move my camera,
that way.
but yeah.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, so I've got the 55-inch OLED, which is a must. If you don't have an OLED, I would say just get one, just please.
Is it worth the price? Is it worth the sticker price?
If you care about image quality at all, I'd say absolutely yes.
Okay.
I'm the kind of person where if the blacks aren't perfect, if contrast is off, it bothers me because I've just been living with tech for 20 years. But some people care about that sort of thing, some people don't. For me, it was absolutely worth the money. Now it's expensive for sure, but if you like home theater at all, you watch a lot of HD rips or 4K Blu-rays like I still do. Yes, I still buy Blu-rays. It's worth it.
That's what I've been wondering, because my wife and I have been holding out for, like, we don't even have 4K yet. We're like, we need, like, when 4K first came out, we're like, I know it's getting good. Let's wait until it's really good before we upgrade. Because we're fine. We have a 60-inch 1080p, and to be honest, it's okay. So I'm like, okay, the next one we upgrade to, we're about ready to upgrade. Is it worth it to go that extra mile for the OLED? You say yes. I think some other people I've heard say yes, and because we have the high definition rips. Right, we're watching. Do you notice it in like a Netflix or Apple? I don't know where you get your movies from, Apple, Microsoft, anywhere. Do you notice in that situation as well?
Absolutely. So the great thing about Netflix is they hold all of their creators to the same standard in terms of video quality. So everything new at least is going to be 4K HDR. You can absolutely tell when you're watching a 4K HDR show versus their standard HD, a 1080p movie. It's really noticeable. HDR specifically is something that even if you don't go in OLED, get a TV that's bright enough to do actual real HDR. The brights and the contrast, it really is very impressive. So it really does add a lot. And then you also get an expanded color gamut with that. So it's definitely worth it for me, but I'm a crazy person, so I don't really know. It's really up to you. I'd say if you have this is kind of what I tell people. If you have like a dedicated room where you watch movies and TVs and stuff, and you can get a 60+ inch TV, go for it. If you just are very casual, you're watching, Friends reruns and football, it probably doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what's your box of choice right now as far as a media box? So what are you using to power all that 4K content? What's your app of choice box of choice?
So I have a active HDMI cable that runs from my PC on my desktop and
PC.
routed to my actual TV. And then also it has, obviously I use all the streaming apps, Amazon, Netflix, all that good stuff. Yeah. They all have really good 4K content actually, which looks almost indistinguishable from actual Blu-rays, which is great now. I mean, streaming's gotten a lot better. I don't really use any game systems actually outside of a Nintendo Switch, which is just fun. So it's really all PC streaming basically.
I think it's important for people to think about, right? They think about the TV so much, and then they're like, hey, what are you going to use to power that 4K content? How are you going to get that into your TV? Not many average people, are going to have the PC to hook up to it. So what are you going to use, right? Is it an Xbox One? Because that does do 4K HDR. You're going to have to pay some money. You're not just going to be able to do the $30 Roku stick. That's not going to do it anymore. And the majority of people I help out, because everyone at work, when you're the guy, the IT guy, they always come to you with the questions. Hey, I got this stick, but I'm thinking about getting this awesome TV. I'm like, okay, that's great. You're going to have to upgrade that though. So what are you using to, is it an Apple TV 4K? Is it something? And like, oh, you mean I can't just like use that? And so it's the full kind of process. So it's interesting that you use the PC. I think that probably is the best way to get, the highest quality image to your TV, right? I mean, think about the graphics card you have in that thing. Think about all the processing power, everything you have behind it. That's probably going to be the best.
Yeah, and you get the added benefit of being able to play games. So I can just pop on a game if I want to play 4K.
Do you do that often?
I do it pretty regularly. I don't have enough time to game as I used to, but when I do, it's nice to just get on the couch and pop in like The Witcher 3 in 4K and just watch my computer struggle to do it. But it's still fun.
Right.
Couple of comments from the chat room. Schlumpy says IKEA is great. Built a DJ table from there, and then says we were talking about OLED news tickers can be harmful, right? When we talked about Joe said scared of the burn-in. I have kids, so right.
The burn-in they've gotten a lot better, especially the newer models with screen shift and some of the other technologies they use. But it's definitely still a risk. You've got super bright images. and the organic nature of OLEDs, it's tough. There's definitely risk. If you have kids, they're watching Sesame Street or whatever. Is that a show kids still watch?
I think
Oh yeah,
Mike's got kids.
Yeah, I got a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. Sesame Street is very popular in our house.
All right, so I'm still current with the kids. All right, good. To know.
Yeah.
So whatever they watch, that can get burned in, super for sure.
So Jay, explain that to me though. So maybe I don't understand that. How does burn in for me is you leave something on your computer on for a long time and it burns into that screen, right? It's the same image, but with something that's changing all the time, what am I concerned about with burn in?
So if you're constantly changing, then you really have no issue. But if you leave like a static image on the screen for an extended period of time, and it's not, you'll hear people say like a half hour, it's really not that dramatic. We're talking hours. And then
so it's when kids pause and leave the TV on and walk away for hours. Okay.
Exactly. Gotcha. Or you watch like, a news network, you watch like Fox every day, you're watching the morning news or whatever it is.
Right.
And it's burned in every day for 3 hours, 4 hours, and then just keeps happening. Stuff like that can lead to burn in on the OLEDs. But if you're just using a TV normally, like casually watching, change the channel, you should be fine. Like I haven't had a single issue, and I watch football all day Sunday. That score box is burned in. So it's really not as big of a deal as people make it out.
The score box. There was a day they didn't show the score. When I was growing up, you'd have to wait to the commercials to get the score. Jay, if you sound like I said I had to walk uphill both ways in the snow, then an old guy when I was young. Jay, if you use your PC to drive your TV, are you a Plex guy at all? And if you didn't have the PC, what do you think you'd drive it with?
I used to be the home media server guy. I used to do Plex.
Oh, you would fit in this community well.
That's what our community loves.
I was big into that back in the ripping days, which aren't as prevalent because of streaming now. But I still have Plex. I still have probably 500-600 movies and tons of music. But I find that I'm not using it as much as I used to, simply because I can turn on my Netflix or Amazon and basically stream the same movie. But I do have it. I have a secondary media PC that's set up just for that, hooked up to my router. So I do have Plex, but I wouldn't say that I'm super into it as much as I used to be. Kind of something I gotta get back into.
Yeah. Why do you have to get back into it? I mean, streaming has taken over, right? I mean,
it has.
Yeah. But you kind of feel bad, don't you? Like, because it was such a love for so long.
I do. And I also don't trust the streaming platforms that they're going to have everything I want when I want it. You know what I mean? Yeah. If something leaves Netflix, then I got to go hunt for it on 12 different platforms. That to me is annoying. I really want to make sure I still have at least my favorites all backed up in some sort of HD format. So I think when I get a house and a home theater set up, because I'm still in a 2-bedroom apartment here, that's the next step. Then I'll probably go back, the home theater room, Plex, everything, popcorn, all that fun stuff.
And I think really for Plex, they saw that coming. So the live TV, getting an antenna and being able to have Plex as your DVR, that was huge for them, because that's really what kept my wife and I in it was, well, okay, maybe if we don't, everything's streamable, but our local channels, plug an antenna that's in our attic, and we've got live TV, we've got all of our recorded shows, and it's there when we need it. So I think they've kind of seen that too, where the streaming has gotten to a point where it's so much easier. I'm not paying for hard drive space.
Right.
I'm with you there. We've stayed in it because of those certain niche things. Number one, especially for our kids, they watch things over and over and over. It's the PBS, and that's something I can DVR on the Plex. Right. Then not chew up my bandwidth cap because they have it on 24/7. So it's those sort of niche things that keeps Plex alive.
So you store everything in the cloud. You don't keep like a local NAS or anything like that?
Me? No, I do. I have a big server, not big. I mean, it's 36 terabytes. Okay. But that's my Plex. It stores everything locally. I don't put anything in the cloud. I run.
I misheard you.
I run Nextcloud. So for all my files, so like as a Dropbox replacement, everything I do is local. My password manager is Bitwarden, which is local, open source. Nice. So I'm actually really. That server, if it bit the dust, I'm kind of in trouble. I back up to the cloud in certain circumstances, but no, I do everything local.
I love it. Love it.
But for everything else, for streaming, we're Netflix,
Yeah.
we're Amazon, we're all of them, right? It hasn't saved me any money because I'm still paying for all the streaming services, YouTube TV for cable.
How do you like YouTube TV? How's
I
that?
love it. Absolutely
Okay.
love it. The only downside, my wife and I watch, there's not an NFL game we don't watch.
Mm-hmm.
One of them might be playing right now on this other screen.
Yep.
So like there's not a game we don't watch. Without Red Zone, we do it where, we pay her parents who have Dish and we get their login for NFL Red Zone. And so we log in with that. That's the only channel we miss. But other than that, it's unlimited cloud DVR, watch it wherever we want. And for $55 a month, that's a fraction of the price of what we were paying before. So
I thought about switching.
Who do you have?
I have Comcast.
And you're paying for cable through them?
Yeah, so I have cable and internet bundled, which is obviously a nightmare. But I thought about switching. I still want to cut the cord, obviously. But what concerns me, honestly, is with the proliferation of all these streaming services. So now we have Apple coming out. It's going to be $10.99 a month times 7, which essentially 100%. Is going to be the same as paying your Comcast bill, which is, that's fine, I guess. But it's almost like, what's the point? I might as well just keep Comcast at this point.
And it comes down to, I think there's a fine line. You just do the math, and whatever the math comes out to, right? For us, with the amount of boxes we were paying for, it was just ridiculous. Because we have these TVs where we need to sometimes watch cable, and I'm not the type to go move a box just to watch it, but like her parents are in town, they're in the guest room, they need a box, right? Or you're out, and we have like the outside. So like it was just, for us, we were paying almost $60-$70 in boxes. And so you just got to do the math for you. If back when we were in our apartment, we had no problem paying cable because it was just us, maybe two boxes we needed, our bedroom and the living room, and it was great. So it's a math problem for everyone. It's not the best, and you're right, because I saw YouTube TV just jumped up again to $55. I started paying $35 for them, and now I'm paying $55, right? So like, what is this going to end up being? And that's without HBO, that's without Showtime. There's no add-ons there. That's just the basics, but they get all the sports, right? They have FS1. They've got every single sports channel you can imagine, except for NFL Network. Still waiting for that. So there's give and take.
So NFL on YouTube is great now from a highlight standpoint. So Mike, I can't watch every game on there. And so NFL has their own channel now on YouTube. And within an hour of the game being over, they're producing full highlights that you can just go view on YouTube. And it's freaking amazing. So Sundays, I'll watch one of the games, and then in between, or Sunday evenings, in between the last set of games and Sunday night, I just start rolling, just ripping through the highlights, right? And kind of catch every game. That's kind of sweet. So, where I just don't have time to sit and watch every single game. Although, so for the first time ever, Sunday I was in Gainesville, Florida. Had nothing to do in the evening, and I watched my very first complete game in a sports bar ever. Like I've never done that. I've never had the time or even wanted to. And we're, nothing to do in town. I'm going to say, I got to start doing that a lot more. It was pretty great.
Nice. Who were they playing? Was it a Buccaneers game or?
No, we watched the end. Well, we watched them all. So we watched the end of the Chiefs game. So we came in the fourth quarter. Yeah, Chiefs Ravens. Watched the end of that, and then we stayed and watched all those afternoon games that were on.
There was a bunch.
Yeah. Because they had, where we sat, all TVs. I was like, man, this is kind of nice. I don't have to pay for the NFL ticket. I did pay for the beer. That was you do a couple of those, but so it didn't. So Jay, do you find, with as busy as you are working, making YouTube, this is my problem. I'm so busy, I'm watching less and less. So I have all these technologies, but I'm watching less and less TV and maybe a little more YouTube than I used to. Do you find the same thing?
Yeah, I would definitely say I watch more YouTube than television for sure. Now, there are shows that I like that I obviously set aside time for, but I watch a lot of YouTube. Like, honestly, I wish that they could give me like viewer metrics. It'd probably be embarrassing. I do like YouTube.
Do you subscribe? Are you kind of like, do you use YouTube like we use our podcast feed, where you kind of now, because subscription is so good on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find you subscribe and you come home and there's that little red number up on your YouTube and you just start rolling through your channels?
Who's up? What am I watching? Let's just roll through it.
Do you primarily watch tech, or do you find you kind of have a variety of things that you also watch?
I'd say I watch probably 70% tech, 30% sports. I watch a lot of like football scouting videos. Obviously, I play a lot of fantasy sports, so I'm kind of locked into that. I love sports too, so probably almost maybe tech's here, sports is right here, pretty close. But so I watch a lot of that, but mostly tech, and also I do watch a lot of car videos too. I love cars, so tech related, and then sports for sure.
Got a car that you prefer? Do you follow a certain brand or a certain genre of them?
I am not a brand loyalist. I don't want to be that way with cars because they're all bad, to be perfectly honest. But I do like German cars, Audis
Okay.
and Mercedes. I think I have an Audi right now, so that's kind of where I'm at the moment. But yeah, I don't want to say I love one more than the other. Actually, you know what? I like McLaren. That's probably my favorite.
Oh,
manufacturer.
wow.
Good choice.
That's
Yeah.
a good
Yeah, they're
choice.
killing
That's
it.
a good call. You're in the Philly area. Do you find
Mhm.
is there do you have a local tech community that you do stuff with, or is there do you do anything locally around tech, or is it pretty much just through
Honestly,
YouTube?
yeah, I don't do a ton locally. I do more with my actual job and work in terms of like presentations and speaking than I do around actually PC hardware, the tech everything stuff. And I think that'll probably change a little bit as I go forward. For the most part, I've been kind of just honestly a loner about this simply because I didn't want to commit to doing things I didn't have time to do. I didn't want to, you know what I mean? I've had people reach out and say, "Hey, can we do videos?" You know, and I just wasn't in a place where that was really practical to do, so I didn't want to commit. But I think that'll probably change a little bit going into the fall, winter here, and going out to the next year. I would like to do like a local podcast or something, do some events here, you know, anything I can. But yeah, I have a couple friends in the area, you know, that I've grown up with and stuff that are into tech, but really not a ton of people actually, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it's hard. We've done some Midwest meetups
Mhm.
for a lot of years. We get together in Indianapolis, and a bunch of us would, from the Midwest or Texas or whatever, we would get together. I guess that's in the Midwest, and it was fun. We'd get together and do that. On the East Coast, everything's so dense that you would think that would be easier. I think it happens less in some of those
Yeah,
some of that
because
scenario.
we're so angry over here that we can't even.
You throw snowballs at Santa. Come on.
There it is. I was wondering how long.
That's what Philly's known for sure. And
Absolutely.
you got to be kind of an old guy to know that reference.
Yes,
kind of
it's a good
visual.
one though. If you actually watch that video, it's on YouTube. It's pretty funny.
And I think they did a whole 30 for 30 on that or something.
Yeah,
on
there's
ESPN.
there's some kind of special on it.
It's great. On Tech Everything, you're on the website. You have a lot of reviews. You're involved in some stuff with CES. As you think about in the last, I don't know, let's say summer, when you think about gadgets that you've reviewed or you've worked on or come through your channel or whatever, what do you? And we talked a little bit about the small form factor PCs, but on the gadget side of things,
Right.
what gets you excited? What do you like to what do you like to follow? What do you like to review? What are some of your favorite things to review outside of the PC space?
I think outside the PC space for sure, and stuff that actually I have a video I'm probably gonna produce for this weekend. The audio space and headphones. Like I've been super excited about headphones. Actually, funny enough, I've got Focal Elex here, so that's one, and then I've got what else do I have? Oh, the Audio Technica R70X right there, and then the Bear Dynamic DT1990. So these are three awesome headphones that I'm kind of going to do a shootout on. I've been super into audio silently, I guess you would say. So that's cool. And then also laptops. I really like the direction that Intel's going with their new chips, and they're pumping out some really awesome laptops. I've got, what do I have here? I have my Razer Blade Stealth. This is actually an amazing laptop. This is a 13-inch laptop that you can do full 4K video edits on with no issues. Play most games at 30 to 60 frames. It's got an MX150, which isn't that powerful, but it gets the job done. So I think with these new 6-core mobile chips that are coming out, that's super interesting. That in the audio space. So DACs, amps, that stuff is fun to me as well. That's really kind of exciting. I'm really excited to see where that's going to go in the next year or so.
Laptops, huh? That's an interesting space because
Very.
you don't hear too much buzz around it, but
Because it's typically boring. It's like, here's a laptop. It does the same thing. It closes. You know what I mean? But they're getting kind of exciting in terms of what they can do versus a desktop.
Yeah, I mean that's what makes it interesting to me, and that's why I'm really interested in actually hearing what you're doing with those laptops, because it's the one space to me where you still have some room to really innovate, right?
Yep.
It's easy to take a desktop PC and just add in new cards and stuff like that, and you can constantly replace them. But what can we fit into the laptop? It's almost like why you're into small form factor, right? So it doesn't surprise me you're into the laptop where it's I've got a laptop, I can fold it up, put it in my bag, take it. And then I can whip it out and I can do a full 4K edit, right? Like when you think of the big, especially tech, like you think of MKBHD, right? When he goes out to Apple, if he can take a laptop and edit red footage, right? And when does it get to that point where you've got all of that in the laptop? That's interesting. You kind of forget that it's kind of a sleeper area where you're like, well, no, this is the one area where we'll probably see the biggest innovation. Phones have gotten to the point where they're phones, right? They do
phones
great.
Honestly bore me to pieces.
They do. You've gotten to a point where all the features are there. Yeah. But laptops are interesting still.
They are
so weird. That's so weird.
Are you a phone guy?
No, but it's just listening to ourselves talk about how laptops, which have been around, forever, we're excited about, and then phones are boring. For so long, it's just been blah blah phone, blah, and the newest of this and the newest of that, and this, iOS 13 comes out, and everybody's like, nah, you probably shouldn't even install it.
I'm an iPhone guy. Obviously, it's not because I think that it's the best phone, because it's simple, it works, and I don't really do a ton with my phone. I'm excited for iOS 13 for dark mode. Other than that, not really that excited about it. But there's some really cool things with laptops. I don't know if you guys have seen the Asuza Pro Duo at all. There's been a bunch of videos and coverage about it, but it's basically a 15-inch laptop that also has a second screen, like a touch screen on the bottom. So you can write. It has pen support. You can slide, like, say, your Spotify, I don't know, Instagram, Twitter feed, and do full work stuff there. You can do Premiere Pro, have all your palettes and stuff that underneath. It's very cool stuff like that. That's innovation. That's true innovation, and it's functional. It's not just like a gimmick. It's someone like me, a gamer, something, you could use that stuff. Have your Twitch stream down there. It's really cool what they're doing.
I think of even like photo editing, right? You got a color wheel down there. You've got all sorts of a video editor. You've got a second timeline or something like that. Makes a lot of sense. And even I would not be upset, and I might even try out a laptop with two screens that just fold together, because I've typed on an iPad that's been laying down, and it's not the worst experience I've had in the world. Is it something I want to type out, my legal documents on, right? Like, I'm not going to draft an entire agreement on that. But for an everyday laptop where it's mainly video editing, where it's mainly something where I'm not typing too often, it's not a bad experience. So I wonder if we'll start to see more of that, right? That second screen gets a little bigger, and maybe the haptic feedback on a touch screen becomes a little better, so it almost feels like a keyboard without being a keyboard. Interesting. I didn't know that they were incorporating those as much as they are now. And Asus, any other brands that are starting to do that you've seen?
I'm trying to think if any other brands have. I don't think anyone has one on the market yet. I would say Asus is doing some really interesting things. They also have their Zephyrus line, which is a gaming line, but essentially the bottom lifts up. You've probably seen that before. The back side of the bottom kind of lifts up when you open the screen and lets the air in. That stuff like that, that's really amazing. So you can put desktop class chips essentially in there. I haven't seen another dual screen laptop, but I've seen a bunch of thin-in lights, just a ton of thin-in lights hitting the market. Everyone's got an aluminum 13 or 15-inch, Ultrabook that does great numbers. So that's really exciting for me. You can get a great laptop that can do everything for $1,000 to $1,500.
Well, that's that second screen too. When you look at like the Apple line, I've always been an Apple guy. They had the touch bar, which is almost like it still changes. The thing I liked about the touch bar is it's where it adapts to what app you're using. If you're in a video editing app, maybe it's the timeline scrubber and some other things where it changes. But it sounds like Asus took it a step further, because I'm guessing the Asus one's a little bit thicker. Looking at the touch bar on the Apple products is very thin, but on the Asus, is it an actual usable size?
Yeah, so it's basically half of the base. essentially. That's what it looks like.
big.
The touchpad slides to the right side. Then there's basically a full keyboard. The touchpad also can convert into a number pad. So, I mean, it's got everything covered. Yeah, it's huge. It's a huge thing. I'm thinking about buying it. It's very expensive, but I'm thinking I can probably justify it to myself. So
Good enough, you think other companies will start to copy?
I guess it'll depend on sales. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the design is good. Battery life obviously will be impacted a bit, but it's something geared towards creatives. So everyone wants to be a creative these days, it seems like. So it depends on sales. You know, they're coming out with a 14-inch model that should be a little more affordable, and I think that one might move a little bit better because it'll be under that $2,000 mark. More people can kind of touch on it. But I'm really interested to see actually what Microsoft does. I think their Surface event is on the 2nd of October, I believe.
Yep.
So I was a Surface Book user. I had the Surface Book 2. I had a Surface. What did I have? A 3 way back when, and I love those devices.
Pro 3 or the 3?
Yeah, the Pro 3.
Pro 3.
So I think that's the one I had. Yeah, way back when. I love those devices. I'm interested to see what they come up with next. If they do a folding, they were supposed to have that Courier like 10 years ago, a folding laptop. So maybe they'll come up with something cool that echoes kind of that Asuza Pro Duo.
Do you tend with a laptop? Do you like touch, or would you rather not have that?
So on the laptop, I like two things. I like glossy screens for the contrast and sharpness, and I do like having touch. I really do. Just you might not use it all the time, but when you don't have it, I'm like, poking the screen.
You're touching it anyways.
Yeah.
Right.
So like, I really do like having touch, and I think most laptops should have it if they can, even though it definitely costs more.
Yeah. Wieger, you're a Mac guy, and of course, no touch. Do you like touch or no touch on a laptop?
I do. I like it. Well, it depends on. It's got to be done correctly, right? Like there was the old generation of touch screen laptops, and it was awkward. Like that wasn't natural for me. What I want touch is I could give up a touch screen for the main screen if I had what Jay's been talking about, where you almost have that second screen down below. You got something to interact with below. It's not natural. When I sit at a computer, and it's mainly maybe because of my age, right? Like we've all grown up in the age where we've had a keyboard, we've had a computer. On an iPhone and iPad, that makes sense to me. It doesn't make sense for me to reach up right now and touch my screen. That's just not natural. But for me to look up real quick and do a color wheel that's automatically adapting to what I'm doing, scrub through a timeline, do those sort of touch gestures, I'm a huge touch guy. I think that would be amazing. But I think the way it's currently done, I don't need a touch screen laptop. I need a secondary input. I need it to be more interactive than the way it is. I'm fine. I am way faster with a mouse under my keyboard than I am reaching up and actually physically touching the screen. It's just faster for me. But once you start making it more user friendly and have more features with it, that's when it becomes great.
How do you feel about Apple in general and like where they're going in terms of their products?
You gotta ask the hard question. Yeah, I was gonna say you gotta ask the hard question.
I always find this interesting from obviously an astute tech guy like yourself. What do you think about it?
I have this conversation a lot, and I would say before this latest launch of iOS and iPhones, I was really disappointed. I think they've just ever since, it's honestly, if you want to go back to where I can pinpoint, it's when Steve Jobs passed. You can say what you can about him, about his style and his management style, things like that. But I think that their products drastically changed, and they weren't taking risks that they used to. They weren't just being on the cutting edge like they used to. And I think now they're almost like they're like trying to be on the cutting edge, but not doing a good job of it. Right. It's like we yanked the headphone jack, but everything else just flopped on the phone. and you do a lot of other things. So I'm still a fan and I still love them and I use their products. The iPhone line that they just announced brought it back for me. I think that made a lot of sense. So they announced the iPhone 11, right? They have the price point that's really good. Around $600, and when you do a trade-in, I mean it's like nothing. So they're doing a great job with the trade-in, and the iPhone 11 is a great. And so this is what I like about it. You have a great price phone, the iPhone 11. Look at the iPhone 11 Pro. So they did announce a Pro model. You have the same processor. Since when do you get a lower priced phone with the same processor, highest end? They differentiated in cameras, they differentiated in displays, they differentiated in areas that actually make sense. the processor for a mobile device, it's not going to cost them any more or less to put it in either phone. So that made sense. The
Right.
pros are going to notice the camera. The pros are going to notice the display, and that's where they're making their differentiator there. So I think they did a really good job. I just got my wife the iPhone 11. We have it in hand. It's fantastic. Like, everything's good about it. iOS 13 has been great. I think they're making a lot of the advancements they need to. So they're making a comeback. I was really worried, to be honest. I thought I had become a kind of a non-believer a little bit. Jim, so the backstory here, Jay, is back when Jim and I got first started, when I became a co-host, was that 5 years ago, Jim? I think we decided.
4 or 5 years ago, something like
Brought
that.
me on because I had doing my own podcast about Apple tech. I was a pure Apple. I didn't have a single non-Apple device in my home. And what we found is that when he brought me on the show, he almost like converted me. I became more of a, like, I run home servers now. I've got Dell servers. I've got enterprise grade stuff. I've got, and so I never talked about Apple because I've become so infatuated with, oh, there's this whole other side of tech I hadn't explored before. And so it failed on Jim's, but I failed Jim.
What are you doing, Mike? You're supposed to be my Apple guy.
Apple stuff.
I was trying to bring controversy to the show.
Yeah. But
Never worked.
I think now the computer space, though, to be perfectly honest, I think they're still killing it with the computers. I think what they've done, if you do the math, there are still the people that are going to say you pay the Apple tax when you buy an Apple machine, and you do.
Sure.
That's not to be, but they have brought that so far down, and you're getting so much for your money now. I think especially when they do the calculations on the new, essentially the new Pro that they announced, right? Like the highest end, right? The ones that only the movie producers are going to buy. You're getting a lot for your money, and they're listening to their customers. You got the iMac Pro. You've got a line for everyone, and I think it makes sense. And I'm happy in the space again. I was really concerned. Like, if you'd have asked me that question maybe 8-10 months ago, maybe a year ago, I would have been concerned that I was willing to get out. But I think they've bounced back a little bit. But man, when Steve Jobs left, I think we all noticed it. Didn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone? Did you, Jay? I mean, I don't know how involved you were with the Apple ecosystem, but it was evident that when he was gone, they lacked direction, they lacked initiative, and it was really clear.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. It's disappointing because I'm not an Apple PC user, but I've always respected what they're doing from a hardware standpoint, the design of their products, the way that it seamlessly integrates with the software and their OS. I always thought that was really impressive, and something that Windows, who was trying to obviously emulate that with Windows 10, trying to make everything more seamless and honestly more Apple-like. So I always thought that was smart. I thought they did a great job with that, but I did find their PC is a little bit limiting in terms of what I was trying to do. But I did think after, I want to say the iPhone 4, 6-ish, around that timeline, things started to kind of level off in terms of innovation. And it was no longer, this is the iPhone, this is the best phone, hands down, period. It became, oh, here's an awesome Samsung Galaxy. Here's some other things that actually compete. And the same thing with the PC space. Obviously, with this latest round of MacBooks, I thought the odd thing with the keyboard, where people were having lint get under it and it was breaking, and the
butterfly keyboard.
Yeah, it was very odd. These were like kind of large missteps that they were making that in the past it felt like they just wouldn't have made. So I do want them to right to ship. I want them to be there, if anything, to hold Microsoft accountable and make sure that they keep making amazing products as well. I think they're very important in that respect.
And you know what's funny about that is, I say that Apple's back on track. Here's an example of something that drives me absolutely insane. What I'm coming to, what I'm broadcasting on right now, is an iMac, right? It's an iMac still from, it's a 2000. Wow. It's older than I think. I'm older than I thought. It's like 2013. I graduated. It was. I got it right after undergrad before I went to law school, and so it was 2012, 2013. Runs great. Runs like a champ. I get Steam on the machine because I want to try one game. I don't try and game on this. I know gaming on Mac is a faux pas. Okay, so I get American Truck Simulator, something like that. American Trucker, and I love it. It's a great game. If you guys haven't tried, if you're into simulators, try American Trucker. It's awesome. Same game. It is unplayable on the Mac, right? Unplayable. Like not even. I can't look around. You can't do anything. It freezes up. I dual boot this machine, so I run Boot Camp. I boot it in Windows. Run it, and it runs like a dream. totally fine. The way that Windows can access the graphics card on the Mac, because this thing, although it's not a great graphics card, it's got an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 660, right?
Okay.
It's got that built in.
Yeah.
Not a great gaming, but enough to do it at 1080p, enough to get, just, for a simulator trucker game, fine.
Yeah.
But why, when I boot in Mac, the native system, is this thing unplayable? Same exact game on the Windows side is flawless and great. So those are the kind of little things I'm just wondering, like, those are still the things with Apple that drive me nuts. If I am running an Apple machine, this should run the best when I'm in the native OS. And for some reason, and I noticed it when I Twitch streamed gaming for like all of 2 months. But when I did it, I would run Windows on this iMac, and I could fully utilize that graphics card, and I could pull it from my Xbox, do all my OBS stuff, and stream out. Fine. I tried to do that when it was booted into Mac, and it was. I had to go down to like standard definition because it couldn't even handle it. So same machine, same hardware. Why is Windows running so much better on it? It just, those are the little things I just make my head, and I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the solution is, but so those are the little things.
I believe it's this in a long time, but enough of that Apple crap, Wieger. Jeez.
I know, right? Cut me off. I could
my listeners are like, when is that guy gonna stop?
Yeah. I think they were worried, Jay. When he brought me on, they were like, "Oh,
it was because we've been Microsoft for years. Like it was all Microsoft."
It was a challenge to convert me, and they did a really damn good job. Like they converted me, then they had a great time. So it's
give us enough time, we'll convert anyone.
That's right.
Yeah,
I've worked over a lot of people over the years.
Jay, you mentioned I would get fired if I didn't ask you. So we come out of a storage show originally. This was Home Server Show, came out of this, and did that for a lot of years. And we started the show just to talk about stuff besides home storage. But how much, if you were to kind of count up all the storage you have locally, it's important to us. How much storage do you think you have there?
That's a good question. I don't have as much as you'd think, honestly. So I'd say in here in the office, just for my PC. So I just upgraded the PC. So my desktop has dual 1 terabyte and not NVMe drives, just standard SATA drives, and then dual 500 gigabyte NVMe drives. So that's about 3 terabytes there. I have a 10 terabyte just standard Western Digital backup I use for just raw files. That's about it, just video files, everything from YouTube. And I think I have 64 on the NAS, I think.
What are you running? What are you using for a NAS?
I'm trying to remember.
Been a while. That storage has been sitting there for a while, hasn't it?
It's been. I don't want to say. I'll make a video on the NAS. I don't want to. I haven't honestly touched it in probably a year. Well before the move. So I'll make a full video because I might even have more storage than that now. So to everyone who cares, which is just us three, probably.
There'll be a few. No,
is it a custom box though, or is it something like a Synology or a QNAP, or is it like a custom?
Yeah, it's in its own tower.
It's in its own tower. Okay, so free
so
NAS.
That's why I'm like, I had the Synology, and those work fine, but
the power's not there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I have tons of just like old CPUs and motherboards and stuff hanging out. So it's like, why not just throw it in and make it work? You know. So maybe I'll upgrade that. Maybe that'll be a next video.
There you go. And well, in this community, they just we love talking about terabytes. So it's like, how much do you have? And I remember in the old days, if you had 4 terabytes, it was gigantic. And now Wieger's like, well, I got a small server. It's 36 terabytes. And it's like, there were days 36 was gigantic. I remember when I was working at the bank. So this would have been 20 some years ago. We built a big data warehouse. And I remember when we got to a terabyte. And they were like, yeah, we just upgraded, it's full terabyte access. And I remember thinking, that terabyte, wow. Because, we talked in gigs in those days.
Yeah.
You'd think, oh, man, that whole database is that's gigantic. And today we wouldn't even think twice. Like, it's just crazy.
I've got a drive. It's a terabyte now.
No, totally. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Jay, as we think looking towards the future, what you and what gets you excited? Like, what else is out there that you get kind of excited about when you start thinking about the future and all the technologies that may be coming up?
Scared and excited. I'll give you a double dipper.
Yeah,
Self-driving cars, self-driving tech for sure. Going to be awesome. Going to revolutionize, obviously, the way we transport ourselves around places. But also, it could be an absolute nightmare depending on how this is rolled out. I could probably go on a 30-minute rant about that. I'm not going to do that right now, but that's something that I am interested in and monitoring and fully aware of. Also, obviously, the effect of automation and AI. I think that's going to become more important as we go on. I think the operating system, whether it be Mac OS, Windows, is going to be more closely tied to these artificial intelligences, quote unquote, Cortana, whatever it may be. And the computer will do more automatically than we necessarily have to do now. So now it's input, type, get a result. I think more it's going to be, we know what you want it to do. You sit here every day at 5:30, you do these sequences, you're looking at this icon on your screen, we're going to open that, launch this. So I think that'll be cool. VR as well. I would love for VR to become a thing. I'm holding on desperately, hoping that kind of hangs on because it is very cool. But it seems like it's dying a little bit.
Well, it comes and goes. We get some good. Remember, Google Glass got real popular, and then
so that was weird.
We went through a whole phase of glasses, right? And the
Snapchat
Oculus,
glasses. The whole thing.
Remember Oculus and everybody, and then just kind of, it's like we know we need to get there. I mean, I think with VR and AR or mixed reality is what Microsoft's calling it now, right? A combination of the two. I think we know we're gonna get there. I just don't think we've got all the hardware in place for the right ideas around it. So
agreed. I mean, you're totally right. And I think what really hurt VR was they never came out with that one game that people were like, I gotta play this. They never did, and we kept hoping that was going to be a thing. Because when Oculus came out and Vive, when they were going back and forth, it had a little pop there, but you can only play Beat Saber for so long before you start getting bored, So that's something that hopefully, I mean, that kind of kicks back up and we get some killer game. Like imagine, an open world Grand Theft Auto VR. Like people would go crazy for that. So
there are some cool niche areas. Like I will say, today was the coolest experience I have had with VR. We were at our corporate meeting, so the entire corporation in one place for a meeting. We're building a brand new corporate headquarters. Nice. Our CFO got into VR on stage, and up on top, he's showing us, and he gave us a full walkthrough of our new building that we're building. And he was talking while he's like, okay, look over here. And everyone's like, no, hey, what was that? And he turns around and he's like, and so we're all watching on the big screen, which is not the typical VR experience, right? VR is very personal, one person. This was a really cool use case for it. So the architecture firm was there, and they put him in VR, and then they let us all experience what this new corporate headquarters is going to be by him being in VR, right? So totally something I had never, I don't do much in VR, but that was pretty cool. That was a very niche. I mean, the entire organization was like engaged all of a sudden, like, oh man, like we've seen pictures of what our building's going to look like, but we haven't this is what the conference room is going to look like. And when you walk up these stairs, this is how we're going to experience the open layout. Like they experienced all of that. But we would not have been able to do that without VR. It was really cool. I had never thought of that as even an application for VR until today. So very applicable that we just talked about it. But it was really cool. So there are these niche little areas I think that people will find that beyond gaming, VR makes a lot of sense. If I had been my CEO in the meeting with that architecture firm who put that headset on me, let me walk through. Like that's a pretty, I mean, that helps your sales department, right? Like
that's probably a bid sealer right there. We're going with you guys. Thank you. Here's your contract.
Exactly. So where do I sign? How much money do you want? This is really cool. No other company allowed me to walk through my building before it's built.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the Halo lens was cool. I think that'll be something that you'll see similarly to how you just described it. Seems to be, I think, augmented reality where you don't need the full processing power of generating the whole world. Makes a lot of sense, So I think that we'll see a lot of that. Hopefully, we'll see some of that,
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
At the same time, are we perfect yet? No. I mean, there were times where our CFO jumped through the ceiling all of a sudden. I'm like, whoa, why are we on? He's like, oh, shoot. And he's like trying to, it's not.
Well, that's a feature of the building.
Right? Yeah. Well, that's what he said. He's like, well, I'm in fly mode, so I can technically fly through the building instead of walking. So, I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it was pretty darn pretty darn near perfect for what we have going now. And I can tell you, 98% of our company was just awed. Like they were just like in awe, like this is the coolest thing we've ever seen.
What a way to win the organization too for the move, because sometimes when you move, it's very jarring for an organization to move from one building to another. You think, oh, it's exciting. No, not everybody's excited to move. They liked their cube or their office, right? And now it's all new and we got to do some things different. And so how cool to be able to kind of do a walkthrough. We moved buildings. This was years ago now. We didn't have that kind of technology, but we did an NFL style draft for seating locations. So people could, based on tenure, you could come up. It was like, and then so we did we did a selection day, and so the people got to come up, and we had a big map of where they could sit, and they could pick their seat kind of based on, and we let them look at the seating charts in advance, and it was kind of fun, right? You got to make it kind of interesting. How cool would that have been to have some technology behind that with a big touch screen where they could go up. In our Washington, D.C. office, we have a gigantic touch screen. I mean, it's probably 8 feet by 6 feet in our office, and they put interactive maps and stuff on it. But how cool would it have been to have that and then kind of do the touch screen where you hit it and boop, it pops up the thing. So I think there's some cool. Jay, I actually think your micro PC love is going to be a driver for some of this advanced VR, AR, mixed reality, because it's driving things faster and smaller, right? And so I think that space, it's important because we continue to get more improvements on it, and it's helping us figure out how do you keep these things cool, because you're putting this thing on your head or whatever, and it's like, well, it's got to be light and it can't burn a hole through my head, kind of deal, right? Don't you think that's helping that space a little bit?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, for sure, especially thinking similarly about self-driving tech, tech that has to be small and throw into a car and be secure. For sure, I think that all these things, the minification is happening, and it continues to happen. Just hopefully for processes in the future, hopefully we can keep seeing gains in CPU tech, keep shrinking the dies. I think we're at 10 nanometer now for both AMD and Intel. It's gotten tight there in terms of gains over the last few years. So hopefully that can continue, and we can keep seeing these kind of gains and smaller systems that run cooler but more powerful and more efficient.
Yeah. No, right on. Jay, thanks for coming out tonight and putting up with our shenanigans. It's been great to have you on. We got kind of a late start. The folks listening to this on the podcast, they don't care because they didn't have to put up with that. But we had some weird StreamYard issues. Jay, thanks for taking the time tonight to come out. I really appreciate it. I'd love for you to consider this. You don't have to say yes, but I'd love you to consider.
Yes.
When you do, you got those 3 headsets.
Okay.
When you got those.
Well, stop talking, Jim. We got him.
Okay. Well, I'll tell the audience so they'll.
It's moving to
back.
Omaha.
Oh, yeah, I have some room in my basement.
Yeah. It's done. It's done.
No, but I'd love when you have those 3 headsets and you've gone through them, and you're going to probably make a video about them as well. But I'd love, if you're interested, after you've got all that stuff out, to have you back on to do some live talking about those headsets.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I mean, this was really fun.
Or whatever.
I didn't. You never know what these things are going to be like. Obviously we don't know each other.
No.
This was awesome. So I would love to come back and talk a little audio. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, it'd be good to have you back on. We love finding guests who kind of repeat through it, and maybe once a quarter or so come back, talk about. We got to know you a little bit here today. I think that was the most important thing, is just kind of get to know you and figure out what makes you tick and what you like and some of those kinds of things. And I think we can have you back on and really kind of drill in on some of those things that are really important to you.
Just lose all of your subscribers just in one.
No. Listen. You are. I told you this before. You're right up everybody's alley. So
they love getting nerdy about hardware.
They
one
do.
Thing our people love. It's getting nerdy on hardware.
Do the hardware.
Maybe next time we'll go deeper. Like you said, we did kind of a surface level thing.
No,
do a little deeper.
Just a good thing. If you can hang on 1 sec, let me close things up, and then we'll chat a little bit in a post show. Just a couple reminders. Of course, don't forget, we do have a Patreon link that's available. If you want to subscribe or support us on Patreon, you can do that. TheAverageGuy.tv/Patreon get you there. Join us in the Discord group, theaverageguy.tv/Discord. Facebook is the same way, just theaverageguy.tv/Facebook. You can head over there. Contact the show. Send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv. Always love to hear from you. And maybe you saw a whole bunch of stuff or heard a whole bunch of stuff from Jay, what he's got there. Maybe you'd like to hear something from Jay. Send me an email. We'll try and work that in the next time we get him on here, and it'd be good to hear from you. Don't forget theaverageguy.tv, both web and media hosting, powered by Maple Grove Partners. Get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and you trust. Of course, you know this, Christian. I got to get him back on a Cyber Frontiers. We haven't done that in a while. That was cycling up here on the screen. I was like, oh, it's been a while. It's 5 or 6 weeks, so it's probably time. So visit maplegrovepartners.com. Don't forget plans and pretty good custom plans start $10 a month, and that gets you just about everything you need. Then don't forget, download us on your phone, Android, iPhone, both. HomeGadgetGeeks.com will get that done. Best way to listen on the road or anywhere to get that done. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. We've got Ed Sullivan, not the old Ed Sullivan, the new Ed Sullivan. Come on, Mike. We're talking humidor and cigar tech next week. Jay, you cigar guy at all, Jay?
A little bit. Getting into it as, I'm getting older, getting a little more refined in my years. So.
I like it. Well, by the
I'll
way,
tune in.
I'm way older than you, and I'm just getting into it. So it's, but Ed sent us a couple cigars. Mike, I got to get over to you.
I know.
We got to smoke these things.
I think Sunday. What do you got going Sunday?
Oh, yeah, that could work.
See?
Little football, a little cigar.
Little football,
I'm
some
thinking
cigars.
little cigar.
So Ed's got some great recommendations and some things around cigars and technology. He is coming on next week. And then we've been talking about this one for a while. The guys over at Nextcloud are coming in 2 weeks, talk a little about what's going on there. And they've had some announcements on a lot of stuff. And so I think both founders will be joining us in 2 weeks for that as well. Love to have you join us for those. You can always just come out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. And we'd love to have you join us. I want to thank you for joining us tonight. With that, we'll say goodbye.